During the quiet stillness of dawn in the heart of Savannah Horizon Reserve, a routine patrol took an unexpected turn. As the sun's first rays filtered through the golden grass, the reserve staff came across a heartbreaking scene: a lone cheetah cub, trembling and barely visible amidst the swaying blades. His tiny frame was curled low to the earth, his wide, frightened eyes scanning the unknown. He was thin, weak, the kind of fragile only days of hunger and isolation can create. The gentle rise of his hollow belly told a silent story. He hadn't eaten in a long time, and he hadn't seen his mother in even longer. Without hesitation, the team gently lifted the orphaned cub into their arms and rushed him to the rescue center. There, surrounded by care and compassion, he finally had a chance to survive. Among the staff was a young woman named Liana, soft-spoken, steady, and full of heart. When she looked into the cub's eyes, something stirred in her. She didn't hesitate. She stepped forward, offering to take full responsibility for this tiny life. She named him Nyota, a word from the local tongue meaning revival power. It was a name chosen with purpose, a declaration of strength, a whisper of hope for the journey ahead. From that moment on, Liana's days took on a new rhythm. Every morning began with gentle rituals, warming bottles of milk, wiping Nyota's fur with a soft cloth, and speaking to him in a calming, reassuring voice. At first, he was hesitant, skittish, unsure if he could trust this strange new world. But slowly, one heartbeat at a time, Nyota began to let her in. He would nuzzle into her arms, cling to her warmth, and find comfort in her presence. Liana wasn't just feeding him. She was teaching him how to feel safe again. As the weeks turned into months, their bond deepened. Liana became more than a caretaker. She became Nyota's guide, his companion, and his first true friend. She played with him using soft toys, encouraging his instincts to pounce, chase, and explore. The small training grounds at the rescue center transformed into Nyota's wild classroom. Tall grasses for stalking, small barriers for leaping, and open space for sprinting. Day by day, his body grew stronger. His movements became sharper. The wildness within him, once faint, began to rise. But their connection was more than physical. It was emotional. At night, Liana would study cheetah behavior by lamplight, while Nyota curled up beside her, his breathing slow and steady. He found peace in her presence, and she found purpose in his trust. Together, they built something that looked a lot like love, quiet, powerful, and rare. After a full year of care, Nyota had grown into a stunning, agile young adult, alert, quick, and fully capable. And with his strength came the moment everyone knew would come. It was time to let him go. The day of release arrived with a mix of emotions. Liana gently wrapped her arms around him, holding him not with fear but with pride. Her eyes shimmered, not with tears of sorrow, but with the weight of goodbye. She whispered to him softly, words meant only for him, full of encouragement and quiet strength. A GPS collar was fitted snugly around his neck, a tool to keep watch over him as he stepped into the unknown. Then, Nyota was placed carefully into the vehicle bound for the reserve's western grasslands, a place of wide horizons and untamed freedom. As the car came to a stop, Nyota paused at the door. He stepped out slowly, then turned around, his gaze finding Liana one last time. No words passed between them. None were needed. In that still, powerful moment, a silent goodbye echoed between them, a farewell built on everything they had shared. Then, with one powerful stride, Nyota vanished into the sea of golden grass. Liana stood watching, her hand raised in a quiet wave. Her heart ached and soared all at once, a complex knot of sorrow and joy that words could never fully express. Over the next few days, the team monitored Nyota closely, and to their relief, he adjusted quickly, confident, alert, and unafraid. He explored his new territory with curiosity and grace, as if he had always belonged there. Then, one early morning, just as the sky began to blush with dawn, the camera captured a moment that would stay with them forever. Then came a powerful moment, a sign that Nyota had truly stepped into his new life. He returned proudly to a clearing with a freshly caught rabbit clutched in his jaws, his first successful hunt. The team, watching from afar, couldn't contain their joy. This wasn't just a meal. It was a milestone. Nyota had proven he could survive on his own. The instincts Liana had nurtured were now guiding him through the wild. But as nature often reminds us, even the strongest face unforeseen trials. Just one day after his triumph, fate dealt Nyota a cruel hand. While exploring a patch of red-soiled land near the edge of the reserve, a place where local herders sometimes leave ropes to manage stray cattle, Nyota's curiosity led him into danger. A loose rope caught his attention. Playful and unaware, he bit down, tugging at it like a toy. In a flash, the rope snapped tight. A hidden snare clamped around his neck. Nyota thrashed and twisted, trying desperately to escape. But the harder he pulled, the tighter the noose became. His strength began to fade. Dust swirled in the rising wind, the sky turned a deep orange with the setting sun, and still, no one heard his cries. As night fell, he lay still beneath the stars, trapped, exhausted, and alone. But far away at the rescue center, someone was watching. Liana, ever devoted, had been monitoring Nyota's movements through the GPS tracker. That evening, she noticed something troubling. His location hadn't changed for hours. Her stomach sank. She stared at the frozen coordinates, willing them to move, praying for a flicker of motion. But there was only silence. By dawn, with the signal still unmoved, Liana's worst fears stirred to life. She didn't wait. She alerted the reserve commander immediately, her voice steady but urgent. A rescue team was assembled without delay. Equipped with medical supplies and tools, they raced toward the location. Liana rode with them, her eyes locked on the horizon, heart pounding with every jolt of the vehicle across the rough terrain. Then, as the sun broke over the ridge, they saw him. There, in the grass, lay Nyota, barely moving, his body tangled in rope, breath shallow. Liana's breath caught. She jumped out before the vehicle even stopped, running to his side. Tears welled in her eyes as she knelt beside him, stroking his head with trembling hands. "I'm here," she whispered, voice cracking. "You're safe now." Though weak, Nyota responded, barely lifting his head, his eyes softening at the sound of her voice. He knew her. He trusted her. The team moved quickly. With steady hands and careful precision, they cut the rope that had carved into his neck. Nyota didn't resist. He didn't need to. He felt the rescue in every touch, every word. Liana held him close, pressing her forehead gently against his. "You're going to be okay," she murmured. "You don't have to be afraid anymore." After nearly an hour, the bindings were finally removed. Nyota lay still, too weak to stand. The team placed him on a padded mat beneath the shade of a nearby tree. Liana cleaned and dressed his wounds while the medic prepared a stimulant injection to help revive his energy. She administered the shot and waited, holding her breath. Then, a flicker. Nyota's eyes opened slowly. Liana placed a small piece of fresh meat near him. He hesitated, then took a few bites. It wasn't hunger that made him pause. It was something deeper. He looked up at Liana with a gaze that said everything. "I'm ready." Liana smiled through her tears, overwhelmed with emotion. She leaned in again, their foreheads touching one final time. A quiet, sacred moment beneath the rustling leaves. Nyota stirred. He stood unsteady at first, then slowly regained his balance. His legs were still wobbly, but his spirit had returned. The bandages were gently removed to give him full movement, and his GPS collar remained, a lifeline, a way to keep watch from afar. Liana gave a soft nod to the team. No words were needed. They stepped back, giving Nyota the space he needed. He turned to look at her one last time, eyes full of recognition, gratitude, and freedom. Then he vanished once more into the tall grass, where the wild waited to welcome him home. Nyota's story didn't end there. He continued to roam the reserve with confidence and grace. His instincts fully awakened, his body healed, his heart untamed. Each morning, Liana checked his location, smiling quietly at each new trail. He was no longer a fragile cub in need of saving. He had become a symbol of survival, of revival. And for Liana, Nyota remained more than just a rescued animal. He was a gift, a reminder of the impact love, patience, and dedication can have. She continued her work with the same quiet strength, but a part of her heart always roamed the wild with Nyota. Thank you for joining us on this heart-touching journey of Liana and Nyota. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to Tales Diaries for more inspiring stories from the wild. Until next time, stay kind, stay wild.